Ho, 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 and hello, and welcome to another season of My First Dungeon, the tabletop role-playing podcast that helps game masters learn new games and how to make each one better than the last. It is the holidays, and that means it is time to be merry here at Many-Sided Media, and so this season we are playing Hometown Holiday, a tabletop role-playing game of televised romance. Let me just set the scene, give you a little preview here. It's the holiday season once again in your quaint small town. There are carols to be sung, decorations to be hung, and charming small businesses to be run. But with all of this holly jolly hubbub, who has time for love? If only there was an equal parts gorgeous and bland idiot to show you what this time of year is all about. As it turns out, there is! However, you are not the only one looking for love this December, and this town ain't big enough for all of you. It's a small town, remember? Flirt, blunder, and trope your way to romance and earn your single chaste kiss with the darling dullard of your dreams. If that sounds a bit like a Hallmark original movie, good, because that is exactly the vibe we are going for. And to direct us through this festive romp, we will be turning to the very first person to ever GM on this podcast, none other than our very own Abby Hepworth. How's it going?
Hello.
Well, welcome once again to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here all the time.
Here all the time.
But it's always a joy.
Always a joy, always a pleasure, never a chore. We've been talking about this game off mic a little bit and how excited you are to play it because you love rom-coms and Christmas and holiday spirit. What are you most excited for about this game?
Oh, man, I'm such a sucker for like a cheesy holiday movie and just like the spirit of it. And even the ones where it's like from the third line, you're like, I could probably accurately guess 95% of this plot. But like that's the fun of those movies, and so I'm really, really excited to play into the tropes and the joy and the just the fun of like being overtly campy. I love camp, and this is, I feel like, the place to do it. Yeah.
Speed run. What are some of your favorite rom-coms and or Christmas or holiday movies?
Oh my God, you're really putting me on the spot. You know what? I will say a recent fave is, I think it's Netflix, A Single All the Way, the new one, with Jennifer Coolidge in it. Incredible.
Okay.
It was the perfect balance of cheesy, you know, it has all of the tropes, but was actually really sweet and lovely and like acted beautifully for I can't remember any of the actors' names who were in it except for Jennifer Coolidge, but Jen and crew knocked it out of the park. I mean, the Princess Switch, all those ones for Christmases, the holiday. I mean, Elf, but like that's just kind of its own. It's a different thing.
I only just watched The Holiday for the first time last year, and it was lovely.
It's also
a great time.
Yeah, it's a cast that you don't necessarily expect to work.
You so don't. I looked at that cast, I was like, that makes no sense.
Yeah, on paper, you're like, what's up? And then you watch it, and you're like, that's what's up. Okay.
I'll be honest, not just on paper, in visuals. You're watching, you're like, I'm not sure this works. And then you get to the end, you're like, shit, they made that work.
Yeah.
That casting director nailed it.
Yeah, 100%.
And then talking about this game in particular, this is a rules light game. We've played rules light games on the show before, but there is a bit of like a competitive aspect to this game. Like there is a winner. There's only one person who can be with.
To get that one chaste kiss.
To get that one chaste kiss from the love interest. Is there anything that you're worried about going into this game or things that you are hoping that Nick can help you prepare yourself for?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that is different from other games that I've played is it's the sort of vague sense of like player versus player since you're competing for the love interest, but also since it's a sort of lighthearted and like anyone could kind of end up with anyone sort of a thing. It's not nearly this. I feel like describing it as player versus player is not accurate, even though it is, because there is a winner. And so, yeah, I feel like managing the sort of competition between players while keeping it sort of fun and figuring out how competitive these players want it to be is the main thing. And then, of course, I want to create a devastatingly gorgeous dullard who is appealing enough and have already been really trying to figure out who they are.
You can just turn your head and look to your loving fiance.
Aww.
Just describe him.
But you're no dullard.
Some days. Well, wonderful. And we want to set you up for success on this show, as we always want to set up our GMs for success. And if you want to set up your GM for success, there is no better way to do that than by talking to the designer of the game, talking to the designer of Hometown Holiday themselves. So we have on the show, Nick Tourville. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. Congrats, by the way, on your engagement.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, that's so cool.
It's we've been engaged since April, but it's still weird to like, we just casually mention it now, and then people are like, oh, congrats. We're like, oh yeah, I guess we should be accepting congratulations for that.
It's always lovely to hear. Yes.
Nick, great to have you on the show.
Yeah, great to be here.
We're very excited to play this game. When Elliot first brought it to my attention, I immediately was sold. I was like, oh, that's our holiday season for sure. 100%. No notes. But just for anyone who isn't familiar with this game, can you give us what's a brief rundown of Hometown Holidays and how did it kind of come to be?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hometown Holiday is, it's everything you've laid out, right? It's a pastiche of the classic Hallmark Christmas movie. It's just the twist is that all the players are each the individual star all in the same movie. So, each player's you're talking about all the tropes and everything. That's very much what this game is based in. It's the whole point is to play into these tropes. Abby said it really perfectly, where it's 3 sentences in, what this movie is. And I think that's kind of a strength of the game, especially for new players and things, is that I don't have to worry too much about what's going on. I kind of know where this is going, and I can play into those tropes. I can be extra silly. And so part of that is each of the players takes on the role of like a quintessential Hallmark protagonist, right? So one of them is we have the roles are kind of like the classes. So one of them is the heart of Main Street. So I'm running a struggling business in the small downtown, just trying to get by, but also, maybe there's someone coming by for me to fall in love with. Or, coming from the opposite end, I could be married to my job. I work at the big corporation and I'm business minded only. And I'm not looking for love. Oh, but the right person has come along. Or you could be the holiday spirit, which is, either I'm like Santa Claus's daughter or I was whisked here from another time. And the only way to get me home and set things right is for also for me to fall in love. So it's like, if you take all of these together, mash them together into one movie.
I think holiday spirit might be my favorite role of just because the constant, this is such a weird way to put this. When you watch these movies, the constant threat that anyone in this movie might be Santa or an elf is just so funny to me.
That is the perpetual Chekhov's gun in every Hallmark movie.
It's like, who's going to turn out to be, like a magical ancient woman who's actually the ghost of Christmas past sent here. And at the end of the movie, she's just like, gives a knowing nod and then disappears as like snow. And you're like, what?
It's so funny. I was literally about to say looks to the camera and is blown away in the snow.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just becomes glitter and you're like, sure. Okay.
Yeah, why not?
I watched one with my wife last weekend where there was a man who wasn't actually Santa Claus, but was metaphorically Santa Claus.
Mm-hmm.
And not subtly either,
So even nothing about these are subtle. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the thing. Yeah, if someone's an elf, they're an elf.
Yeah, 100%.
Honestly, at that point, if you're going to be subtle, just like he's Santa Claus or he's not Santa Claus. Don't make him a Santa Claus.
That's a good point. That's a good point. This was a weird one. This was like a family. It was the plot of like the typical Hallmark movie, but it was the family learning to love the holidays. So it was like, that was weird because the beginning was like, is the dad gonna leave the mom for the woman who runs the diner? These are always romances. Like, what's going on here? That doesn't seem right.
Right. We're like, this is supposed to be about family joy, and we're gonna have a divorce. What's happening?
Right. We have 2 tropes at odds with each other currently. That did not happen. But
love that. I am really excited for this, especially because it's not just like we're taking one of these tropes and playing it with it. We're taking all of the tropes and putting them all into one bucket and just seeing like how those things happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I don't know if I derailed us, if I quite...
No, you're fine. We'll perpetually go off the rails and we'll perpetually find our way back somehow.
Perfect.
So to start us off, before we get into addressing kind of Abby's thoughts on the game and what she's most worried about, what we should prepare for, what any GM should prepare for if they're playing, can you real quick break down the main like dice mechanics of the game? And also, I'm so excited for you to explain the stats of this game, because it's, I'll be honest, when Elliot first told me about this game, he told me, oh, there's this game Hometown Holidays, and it's kind of like a Hallmark movie. And then he told me what the stats are for this game. And I won't take that joy away from you. I'll let you tell the listeners, but it is what sold me on the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. So it is a 2d6 system, just super straightforward. My character is trying to lift up a really heavy object. And so they would roll with one of their 3 stats and then add that stat in, right? So the 3 stats are sweaters, cocoa, and cheer. So it's...
Yes, they are. They absolutely are.
I have a +2 in cocoa. Yeah, no, it's like, it's kind of a flavorful bend on the classic, like mind, body, soul kind of thing. So all my physicality is in my sweaters, and all my mental tasks are like cocoa, and my cheer is my charisma, and also just my love for the holiday season.
Nick, no notes. No notes.
It's just so fun.
I'm glad. That's something I always love, is like just the small little jokes that get people. Everything about this is meant to be just like super like zero prep for anyone. Just jump right in, and that includes the character creation. So there's 6 roles. Each of them has its own sheet that you just print out or use on your computer, and you get to decide your name and a 2-sentence backstory. Although there's also a couple recommendations. I found most people just kind of go with that. And then you choose a skill, and your stats are already predetermined, and you're just good to go.
I also love the secret objective.
Oh, yes.
That each person gets to have. Also, because I was reading through all of the options, and again, it's honestly, the writing in this game is so phenomenal. Of like every single piece of it, you're like, yes, holiday, get it. I know what this is. Like every single piece just reinforces what it is. And I was like dying. I was like, if I were playing one of these roles, I don't know which one I would want, because I want to be them all.
Well, thank you. That's very sweet. So the secret objectives are something you'll find on the character sheets. So that is before the game starts, all the players will roll one of their D6 that will correspond to one of the 6 options, and they keep that to themselves. They don't even tell the director. And what that is just a little goal that they are trying to accomplish throughout the game. And it does go towards the competitive aspect, and we'll touch on that, but it is mostly just, everyone's playing into these tropes, but it gives everyone an extra little motivation, because most of the time, one player ends up with the love interest. Sometimes more, sometimes none. Usually one. But the secret objective gives everyone something to do, like maybe they just aren't having in the moment that, character chemistry with the love interest. Or it's just clear that they're not going to end up with them. But they still have this kind of fun task to accomplish. And some of them kind of break the conventions of the Hallmark, typical genre thing. So I very much encourage in the book everyone to kind of keep the tone light. Don't be too winking, like don't try to be too ironic with it. Like try to be genuine with it. But of course, it's naturally going to happen that you're going to, you're going to wink a little, and
right.
that's totally expected. But the secret objectives will sometimes invite you to do something a little bit more duplicitous than you would find in it, right? So there's one of the roles is the cool single parent, and your kid, you have a super smart kid who's always giving you love advice and things like that. But one of the secret objectives could be like, find a few opportunities to throw them under the bus and benefit from it. So it just invites you to do these. Some of them are very straightforward. Some of it's like help your kid, but if you roll a different number, it could be like, ooh,
maybe, it's like use make your sure that you benefit from it. Yeah, exactly. Your own means or your own ends.
Yes, which actually a lot of times is in genre as well. Weirdly enough.
But yeah, it does feel very fun to, as you said, like twist it a little bit, where it's like, well, I would never use my child to do that. And it's like, you literally would.
you have throughout the movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to be a player this season, which is a rarity for me. So it's great. So I've deliberately not looked at the characters. I don't want to know any of too many of the secret objectives. I want to try to parse them out as we go.
Actually, so this is going to be part of my advice. Oh, no, sorry. For you as a player, yes, that makes sense. Sorry, I had it reversed for a second. If I can cut in, though, real quick.
Yeah.
Part of my advice, you don't have to do this, but I think as the director, Abby, it could help to, I don't think you need to have them all memorized, but just like get a sense for what the secret objectives are. And that way you get a sense when you can tell a player is going for something, you can kind of set them up for success.
Yes. Okay. That makes a ton of sense. Yeah. It's like if I'm like, okay, I feel like this might be your secret objective, to help people along without being too on the nose about it. That is smart. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I do, just before we move on, I do want to touch back on the dice mechanics a little bit. So 2d6 system, and you add your appropriate modifier of sweaters, cocoa, or cheer.
Yes.
I know I'm very familiar, and a lot of listeners are familiar, and Abby's familiar with like what DCs are for, D&D. Like 10 is pretty easy, 5 is super simple, 20 is getting tough. What are like the rough DCs you recommend for like easy, medium, and hard tasks?
So I say easy, 6+. So like 6 and above. If something's easy, medium, 8+. And for a really difficult task, 10+. That said, you want your players to succeed generally, right? I mean, but that is also the fun of an RPG, is sometimes a failure leads to a fun complication. You have to work around it. But generally, I'm in favor of things being on the easier side. And the stats are pretty generous. If you're good at something, it's like you'll have like a +3 in Coco if you're like really smart, if you're the married to your job kind of a thing. But you might have negative cheer, so you gotta
watch out.
You balance them. Yeah.
It'd be great at your job. Go to the holiday party. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
There is also something just so sweet, especially as a player and as a game master, when you set that crazy high DC and then someone hits it. Like someone
that is
like
very true.
Great. If you roll a 25, go for it. If you roll a 12 in this game, go for it. And someone just nails double sixes.
So there's another little thing with the dice where if you roll doubles, you activate a plot twist. So that could be something. If you roll snake eyes, that could be something bad. And so like there's in the book a table. So double ones, that means a blizzard has started outside and suddenly the weather becomes dangerous and everyone's going to be stuck in one place. But if you roll on the opposite end, if you roll 12, if you roll 2 6s, then a random NPC in the room also becomes a love interest. And now they're thrown into things a little bit more heavily. So you don't want that happening all the time. But when you have that magic 6 and something goes really, really good, you've also very much impressed someone else in the room.
Mm-hmm. I do love, introducing like plot twist. There's more than one love interest available here.
I do really like making plot twists a mechanical thing. Like when this happens, everyone knows like, great, we're gonna add a complication to the table. We're gonna add a complication to what's going on. That is always nice, because especially when someone is not used to doing a role-playing game or is moving from something, like D&D or Pathfinder or something into something like this that is more rules light and is more collaborative than the traditional dungeon master player relationship.
Right.
Having some of those like little mechanisms that you can lean back on, like you roll doubles, we're gonna have a plot twist. You have a secret objective you can work towards. All those things are little things that the player can kind of like, physically lean back on and just be like, okay, if I don't know what to do, I can at least do this.
Yeah.
And that's hugely helpful, especially, when you look at a D&D character sheet, you're like, okay, there's a million things. Like, what do I do? It's kind of a choice paralysis. This is like, I've got a secret objective. Great. I'll do that. I'm really good at Coco. Great. I'll do that.
Yes, it's great to hear. That is very much the intent and the point. And it's something I found playing, different RPGs that are also genre based, is when you have something that players are so familiar with, if they're new to RPGs, or I think has been often the case, people might not come to Hometown Holiday new. They might come to Hometown Holiday new from like just D&D or something.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And yeah, having those tropes and having those little things to rely on, playing a character that you already know because you've seen it a million times, just really, it just makes for a very smooth role-playing experience.
Yeah. I actually have a question about plot twists. And this, I guess, could apply to a couple of elements of the game. But do you find that it works better if, as the director, you announce like what the plot twist is? So if the plot twist was double sixes of like, there's a new love interest, of being very transparent, of saying like, this is what the plot twist is. And furthermore, it's Curtis the coffee guy. Or do you find it's a little more fun to keep some of that information secret, all of that information secret, so everyone knows there is a plot twist, but they don't know what it is?
Oh, I am very much all for it being public, especially because it's going to be a player who rolled, and
Got it.
the player has to announce that it's doubles, right? And so
Yeah.
then, then you check what it is and announce it that way. And I think part of it is that fun of I don't know, I have worked on like classic board games and things like that professionally, and so I kind of have a soft spot for that. Like Monopoly, I've rolled doubles, something exciting has to happen. Like
Oh,
if
yeah,
I roll
yeah.
doubles, like why isn't something extra special happening? So I kind of want that to be that big moment
Amazing. Okay, cool.
for the game. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that also, just like fits again into the genre of like the obviousness sometimes of these movies where it's like, of course,
Totally.
immediately. There's yes, little subtlety in a lot of these.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I think it's a good rule of thumb is little subtlety.
Okay, cool. Great.
In the book for Hometown Holiday, you kind of describe a traditional game as probably like, 2 to 3 hours, which is great because that's what we want to do. And you break it up roughly into like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, classic movie structure. Though actually, this is a real tangent. A couple of years ago, I read it was like a New Yorker, an Atlantic article or something that was about like the Hallmark movie, like Machine. The people, because they make these movies in like 2 weeks, which is absurd.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
But apparently their like script structure is a 14 act script structure.
Huh. Okay.
Because I guess that like it incorporates 3 act structure and the necessary amount of commercial breaks or something.
Oh, that's fascinating.
It was wild to read.
We'll have to find and like send it to you.
I'm gonna have to look. That sounds amazing.
Oh yeah, I'll find it. I'll send it to you. I'll link it in the show notes too. But as far as what a traditional game would look like, as far as like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, what are the things you think need to get established kind of in Act 1? What does Act 2 look like? And what are the things that Abby or any game master or any director in this case should be looking to accomplish in Act 3 at the end?
Totally. I've tried to break it down to be as like concrete as possible. So, you don't have to formally announce Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, although you could, like I said, no subtlety. But really, it's kind of meant to be just steps for the director as they're directing things along. So it's almost like a checklist, right? So Act 1, you introduce each of the player characters, meeting the love interest. That's their meet cute. So each of them gets their own scene. And then you're done with Act 1. And Act 2, and really from Act 2 forward, you're trying to keep all the players in one place as much as possible, just to keep everyone involved and things like that. So Act 2 is kind of you're just establishing kind of what the problems are in this world that might keep the players from being together with the love interest. So that is usually, that's the plot basically, right? It's the love interest is ready to be wooed. They're ready to be with one or more of these players, like at the drop of a hat. But something is throwing off their Christmas spidey sense. And that has to be dealt with first before they can then worry about love. So it could be like, oh no, a big box store is going to come in here and bulldoze Main Street. Or, the big figure skating competition is happening and I have to win kind of a thing. And so the players are incentivized to help the love interest of that. And, also incentivized not just because they want to be with the love interest, but because this is their small hometown and, they want to protect it and, celebrate properly and all of those things. And then Act 3 is the players really full on tackling, solving that issue, tying up loose ends, and then, someone finally kind of ending up with a love interest.
Mm-hmm.
As marked, as you said, with that single chaste kiss that formally ends the game.
Yes, no sex
Can't kiss
here.
before that. Then that's
Mm-mm.
you got to keep that tension.
So I think now is probably a good time because we've talked about mechanics, we've talked about stats, we've talked about sweaters, cocoa, and cheer, which I'll bring up multiple more times throughout this podcast.
As often as we can.
We've talked about plot twists and we've talked about Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. But the whole point of the game is for each of the players to fall in love with and garner that first chase kiss with the love interest. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on like building that love interest and what Abby should be doing to make a fun love interest for the players.
Yes, absolutely. So the love interest kind of goes hand in hand with kind of like what your overarching plot is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big proponent of like doing as little prep for this game as possible, which I know is like really stressful, especially if you're coming from like a D&D or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
where you have to kind of build out this campaign story and things like that. But I'm a big proponent of like use this game as a chance to just like explore, right? And like not prep too much. And so what I suggest for the prep is kind of figure out what the overarching plot is, right? And that can be really vague. That can be big companies going to come in and try to bulldoze Main Street. That could be the love interest has amnesia. Full stop. That's the whole thing. There's actually a table in the back of the book that gives you some plot suggestions.
Is so fun. But also, yes, wait, was it the Lindsay Lohan, her comeback movie last year was that Christmas movie where, the plot was she has amnesia. It's
what's so funny is I didn't even know about that one, but I've seen at least 3 other ones where that's the plot.
Yeah. She gets in a ski accident and ends up having to be taken care of because she has amnesia and can't remember who she is by, what's his face from Glee? I'm terrible at names, but anyway,
Darren
keep
Criss
going.
is the Glee guy I know. I don't know.
Yeah, Darren Criss? Was that the only guy?
It wasn't Darren Criss. He was a later addition. He wasn't OG
I see.
cast.
I don't think I watched past
I'm
the
gonna
first
think. I'm
season.
gonna think on it. It'll come to me eventually.
I don't actually know if I wanted on this podcast that I watched the whole first season of Glee.
You know what? It didn't age well, but it was a thing we were all super into at the time, and to deny it.
Honestly, you know what it was? They were carried by that first rendition of Don't Stop Believing.
Yeah.
And it has since ruined the song Don't Stop Believing for me.
Oh.
As someone who didn't watch it, that was like the main thing I knew about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, everyone. It was like they played that at like I think it was high school for me. High school, middle
Oh, it
school.
was Cord Overstreet, which is also, I mean, that name doesn't feel real at all, but that's his real name. That's the actor.
They could have just used that as his Hallmark name.
Yeah, they could have.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm so sorry.
We fully derailed you, but you're talking about using like the plot table and like what to prep versus what not to, and to just let roll. Yeah.
For prep. Yeah. So have a vague idea of that plot. And the plot really is the defining thing for the love interest. Because it kind of centers around, because if the whole point of like I said, Act 2 is establishing why the players can't be with a love interest, then that is the thing that needs to be resolved. And so that kind of ends up being the plot and the love interest backstory kind of all rolled into one. And then from there, I really encourage you can plan things more out if you want to. I totally get wanting to do that. It feels safer going in.
Yeah.
But what I like is that because everyone kind of knows these characters that they are going to be embodying, and the role play should typically happens pretty naturally, and you're going to be making jokes and you're like, oh, I'm doing this thing that always happens in these movies. It'll start to happen pretty naturally that like, oh, well, if someone's going to come bulldoze Main Street, my character who owns the small business on Main Street has a problem with that. And the complications kind of will start to naturally roll themselves together. Or the person who, so if we go with that example for a second, that means the character who's married to their job, or the character who's dating a jerk is another one of their roles, who's like, dating some like snobby elitist kind of person. Either the person married to their job or the rich jerk partner could be invested in Main Street being bulldozed. And so everything kind of starts to roll together. And then you get moments like, oh, I have to break up with my jerk partner because they're against destroying this town that I love. And also now I'm conveniently free to date the love interest.
How convenient.
Totally. And so as you set up these meet cutes, that will kind of start to flesh out the world before you even really have to fully settle on everything with the plot.
Cool. Okay.
And for the meet cutes, that can be the part that maybe, you if depending on your number of players, think of a few different scenarios in which the love interest might interact with them. I have a couple go-tos.
I
want to hear my cheat sheet on it. So, if you're the character who owns a small business on Main Street, that's pretty easy. The love interest goes into the store to buy something. They have a charming interaction with the player behind the counter. What my favorite go-to, don't tell anyone I play with that I do this every single time. But my favorite go-to is for someone who is dating a jerk, is that the player and their partner are driving into town, disgusted that they have to spend their holidays in this quaint small town instead of being on their big tropical vacation, and they hit the love interest with their car.
A great one.
And so that's a great one. If your plot is amnesia, bam, you've set it up.
Easy, done.
But that's a fun way to kind of get into the character of the love interest too, because the love interest is infinitely kind. They have an infinite love of the holidays. And so it's always a fun moment to have them get hit by a car and then they immediately stand up. Their sweater is slightly scuffed, but they dust themselves off, right? It doesn't matter how hard they were hit or anything. They stand up and they go, oh, I'm so sorry that I was in the way of your car, kind of a thing. And so then you can kind of, that's the whole idea of the beautiful idiot, the infinitely nice kind of like golden retriever personality. Not that you have to go with that, but I feel like that's usually kind of the like,
it's a great
they have to be
point,
easy to talk to for anyone.
Yeah.
Midnight Muscadines is a cozy, dark tabletop role-playing game where light and shadow intertwine in a fractured world. Players take on the roles of Marmoteers, brave adventurers who journey into the untamed Wildernight to collect the elusive Midnight Muscadines, craft magical jams, and protect the fragile light of Nim. Through collaborative storytelling and resourceful gameplay, players weave tales of courage, community, and the pursuit of balance. Will you preserve the light, uncover the truths hidden in the shadows, or reshape the balance of the world forever? Midnight Muscadines is perfect for fans of Studio Ghibli and Sea of Stars who seek to capture the magic of exploration and the heartfelt adventure in a world where small heroes make a big impact. Play Midnight Muscadines as a traditional GM'd game, GM-less, or even solo. Midnight Muscadines is crowdfunding now on BackerKit. Join the campaign at pandeongames.com/muscadines.
I'm Quinns of tabletop role-playing game review show Quinn's Quest, and this is Play to Find Out. Play to Find Out is an actual play podcast that brings notorious old games from the 80s and 90s back to the table. Each season of Play to Find Out, I'm joined by Emily Johnson and Rob Morgan.
Good? Nervous?
Yeah.
You both looked at each other really concerned, like you think what's about to happen is going to be unpleasant. And frankly, I think that's rude. And together, we explore the TTRPGs of ages gone by. Our goal, to separate the TTRPGs that deserve to be remembered from those that maybe don't. I don't know, Emily. It was the 80s. A lot of people were on cocaine. We blow the dust from decrepit systems to learn how they work. Your 100 on the encounter table bursts out. Right, you've encountered a fog. Get ready. Don't laugh.
Does one get ready for a fog?
Don't laugh. Encounter their unique quirks.
I do finger guns to cover up how I wince.
A weird thing happens as you do finger guns.
Oh no.
And I'm hoping that the Quinn's Quest community will join us in exploring these games too. If you this up, cannot describe to you how much your adventure ends here.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because the best way to learn is to play to find out. Play to Find Out is available now on the Quinn's Quest Patreon, but the first episode of each series streams for free on the Quinn's Quest YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. Anyway, you failed the Earth Tech roll, and you made jokes while I was doing my exposition, so you don't get to hear any more.
Oh, no. Come on.
I was shook as...
Abby, I know a thing that you were worried about going in, or not necessarily worried, but you were interested in how to play, is the friend.
Yes, I think the friend is such a fun addition. And the fact that part of the friend is that they're not competing for the love interest. They might still end up with them. You never know. But I just think it's so great to build in a thing automatically that is like for the person who's like, I don't know, like, I don't want to compete for a love interest, or this isn't my vibe or whatever, because it is such a strong trope. But I think one of the absolute best parts about it is the fact that you're explicitly told that they should be in almost every single scene, even if it doesn't make any sense. And a question I had about part of that, and I guess some of it depends on you and your players and figuring it out, is letting the friend sort of take the reins of where they want their entrance to come in versus as the director being like, suddenly the door opens and you see friend. Or like balancing kind of who's in charge of making sure they're in every scene.
Absolutely. And that's a great question. It's so yeah, one of the player characters, I think the one that we haven't talked about, the one role is the friend. And if you just want to be the person who's not competing, that's totally cool. Either you don't want to be competing or you're not super comfortable with like the flirty gameplay or something like that. If you just want to be like tangential to that, there's the friend. And so they are, as you said, in every single scene, which is easier in Acts 2 and 3 because everyone should generally, not always, but everyone is usually in every scene from then on. But for all those meet cutes, it kind of is on a player by player basis for whether the friend introduces themselves or whether the director prompts them in. I think in most cases, it's helpful for the director to prompt them in like the first one or two of the meet cutes, and then they can kind of develop a sense. And, I just encourage you, be very open with your table. And if the person is kind of a little bit more reserved and not throwing themselves in, you can be like, oh, and then the bell rings at the door and in walks so-and-so.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
It does feel like one of those things where by Act 3, they're just going to be popping through doors like Kramer. Just like, here I am.
That is exactly what it is, right?
Yeah.
And so, I'm not sure if I quite fully explain the concept, but yeah, one of the players can be the friend, and their whole thing is to just give advice to the other players. They're the perpetual wingman. It even says on their page, they don't have their backstory isn't known. It doesn't matter. Their backstory is that they're the best friend of every single character, and they equally want each of those friends.
They don't have a last
succeed
name
romantically.
It's
Yes, exactly. So they're just the funny comic relief that is always there in every single scene. So, to go to those two examples earlier, right? It's where our first scene, the dating a jerk and their jerk partner are driving in. Boom, they hit the love interest with their car. The friend is there saying, oh my gosh, there's been a car accident, but oh, hey, so-and-so, I didn't know you were back in town. Then the next scene, the love interest has gone into the small coffee shop run by another player. And who's sitting there at the table or sitting there at the counter, but the friend again. And, each time remarking on the chemistry that player has with the love interest and what they should do to, woo them.
I feel like the friend also, there's always this sense of like, how did you get from point A to point B faster than the characters in the car? And like, wait, there's always an element of it where you're like, what? How are you there? Which I just adore. Yeah.
Right. How come no one's trying to help them? Why are they so invested in this other person's life? Yeah.
But like, don't they have their own job that they should be at right now
Exactly.
instead of just like helping with the, storeroom or something? No, they don't.
There's a part of me that thinks it's almost secretly sinister because you're right, no one does help them. So by helping everyone, it's actually kind of fucked up.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. And that's mechanically I know we haven't fully jumped into the competitiveness yet, but the players are accruing points every time they have a positive interaction with the love interest. And so the friend earns points when another player successfully interacts with the love interest based off of their advice.
Mm-hmm.
So that's mechanically incentivizing them to really play into that wingman role.
Yeah.
And be like, oh, hey, well, you should go talk to her and tell her this. Or, I heard he really likes blank, kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you teed me up perfect. This is a kind of pseudo-competitive tabletop role-playing game because only, I guess, more people than one could end up with the love interest, but usually just one. Can you talk us through a little bit more of how people are garnering points and how Brian Flaherty, will win the game?
Well, Brian, I prepared a list of optimum builds and strategies.
Yes,
for Hometown Holiday.
I would like to min-max my character, please.
This is
you want
the
to
game
equip
for
the
that,
shoulder rockets. So yeah, I think when you said pseudo competitive, that's what it is. I was actually just I've been playing every year, every holiday season, and I kind of just second nature me now. So, but before this, I sat down and like I need to reread this just to make sure
it's just like
I'm
in
not
your
completely...
head now. Yeah.
Right. It's like, what did I actually write down there? So some of the writing might lead you to be a little bit more competitive, but there's also a lot of encouragement that it is all just for fun. And what I've found playing, whenever I play, is that the competitive stuff is there to, because this is very much targeted towards, rules light, towards new players, new to, the world of things that aren't D&D kind of players. The competitiveness is just there to incentivize you to act, basically. I have never played a game where, one of the players ends up with the love interest and the other players are like, oh no, I was this close to winning, right? Like I've never seen that happen. And
Well, you haven't played with me.
I'm not saying I don't want to see it happen. If there was like a highly competitive game of Hometown Holiday, I would love that.
We're going to do like a Hunger Games twist on Hometown Holiday.
We'll throw that on the table in the back. Yeah. only one.
Only
The person
one
who ends up with the love
stand.
interest is the sole survivor. Sorry.
Yeah.
to cut you off. Yeah. So the way players accrue points is, I flirt with the love interest. And if I said something charming or, I do something impressive, then the director marks a point on a little sheet that I can't see. And they're doing that for everyone. If I, it could also be rewarding outstanding role playing or doing something just really funny and in like within the trope or something, you could just add a little tick mark for someone, right? Or add 2 points if it's really crazy. It's like really, really good. And like was the most, like I rolled the 12 and I did something so impressive and it was like perfect for the love interest. Or, also I fall flat on my face or I say something a little off-putting and it could subtract a point. And then at the end, when it does come time for the love interest, the plot has resolved, finally everyone can breathe. The love interest can finally take the time to say, Brian's character, you have just been the most outstanding. The way you helped me back there, the way, we just really had sparks from the get-go. And I've chosen Brian because you've accrued the most tick marks.
My goodness. I'm just a simple small town girl. And I didn't think I would ever get picked.
Right. No, so sorry.
I just owned this bakery that my father left to me, and we always used to make Christmas buns together every year.
And your love of Christmas bakery is just like my love for the holidays. Yeah. So right. And that's just how you choose, basically who ends up with love interest at the end. Sometimes people tie. I say in the rule book, you can either roll off or just you can share. That's happened before. Yeah. And the friend can also accrue more points. That doesn't mean they end up with a love interest, but at the end they get a little like, yeah, I was the best I was such a good wingman.
Yeah.
Right. That I've won. And the secret objectives play into that. Also, there's actually there's an extra point bonus if you do end up with the love interest, but there's a bigger point bonus if you complete your secret objective. And so the whole point of that is that everyone kind of goes in wanting to win. By the end, it doesn't really matter because everyone wants the story to make sense in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to tell like the, a complete making sense. Yeah, I lost it. But yeah, everyone wants the story to make sense. The bigger bonus for the secret objective just means that like anyone can still win, right? Like if I have just been spending all my time wooing the love interest and completely neglecting my duty to benefit from, throwing my kid under the bus, then like maybe I don't deserve to win.
You get your one chaste kiss and then that's going to have to suffice for you.
You're right. And once I didn't exploit my child, then like what was the whole purpose? Yeah. And then, the friend also has secret objectives and the friend can be the winner or, so I think some of the friends' objectives are like, you end up with one of the players,
Yeah. That is one thing I also really love is the idea that if you see one of your players sort of really digging an NPC or another player or whatever, that it's written in the rules of like anyone can end up with anyone or not end up with anyone if that's where the game takes you, which I think is a really fun thing for players to be like, look, if the hunk I've created is not your cup of tea, you could certainly pursue other folks. We could have romance left and right.
Oh, absolutely. So actually the origin of this game was a fundraiser I did with my friends 3 years ago for the Trevor Project, where we did a 12-hour stream and we wanted it to do something holiday related. I wrote the first draft of Hometown Holiday and we played 4 sessions of I directed it for 4 sessions straight over 12 hours.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
And game 3 of 4, the love interest was it's even referenced in one of the scenarios that you can roll on the table was a hot shot pilot and everyone was snowed in at the airport and everyone just hated the love interest. Not right away.
The villain.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. And so and that's what I'm talking about with like going in, being ready to be flexible, like using this as a chance to explore and experiment with like not having so much prep. is because, yeah, maybe it's more fun that the love interest becomes the villain. And then, yeah, some of the players end up with NPCs. Some of the players ended up with each other. And going back to the kind of competitive, pseudo-competitive mechanics, right? There is point bonuses. They're not as big for ending up with a love interest, but there is point bonuses for ending up with another player or ending up with an NPC. That's still rewarded. And I've toyed around, I've done some exploring and some testing with just removing the points entirely. Because at the end of the day, the whole point, and I stress this in the book, isn't to win, it's to tell this fun story with your friends. But I found that the point structure, no one really cares at the end who won. They'll care who ended up with the love interest and how their personal plot thread resolved. But it does give you that little incentive for starting off. And like it gives you places to, like you said, when I don't know what to do, I have an objective that is being measured in a way that like I know it incentivizes me to work towards it.
Yeah, it's again that thing of like when in doubt, if you're like in a scene and you're like, oh, I've lost the plot a little bit. You could be like, I have the secret objective. At the very least, I could do that. And
Yes.
yeah, to know like there are things you could be working towards that mean something, which I'm putting in air quotes in the sense that you get points for them. But as you said, the points, they're not everything. The points
They're not
are something,
everything.
but they're not everything.
Yeah.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. The points are absolutely everything. But I do really like, because I think, especially when you're coming into a new game as a player, even me, and we played a bunch of games on this show. The first like 10 minutes, you're like still figuring out what your character is. You're trying to remember all the mechanics, and you're not in it yet. Like I don't think there's a game out there that you're in it from minute one. The more you can reduce that time and that like effort to get in it, the better the game is. And I think when you have those mechanics that are just like helping push you through that first couple of minutes of like, this is uncomfortable, I don't quite know what I'm doing. Once you get over the hump of that roller coaster, once you pass that activation energy, you're in, it's golden, everything's made up and the points don't matter. But until then, I don't know anything, and the points are the only thing I'm going to think about, because it's just what's getting me to that point.
100%. And I think that's really well said. That's basically the whole point of the points.
Mm-hmm.
Point of the points. We love the points.
Points.
So Nick, this game's been out for a little while. You ran 4 games in a row on a stream that I really wish I had watched, because that sounds awesome. I'm wondering, are there any, throughout all the games that you've played or games that you've heard of, are there any favorite moments from games of Hometown Holidays that you've heard of?
Ooh, that is a great question. Yes, absolutely. So some of the ones that stick out are in those first 4 kind of like proto sessions, where one of the players, she played a iguana salesman. I don't think that was decided at the beginning, but they kind of like, they were a business person, they were trapped in the airport, and they found themselves at the bar talking with someone else's, like one of the other players, like jerk partners. And yeah, it just came out that they were an iguana salesman. And then by the end of the
career,
by the end of the game, they had assembled a mini PowerPoint that was the PowerPoint on why you should buy iguanas that they had been pitching people throughout the game. And so while some other people were having moments, they were very quickly putting together the slideshow on iguanas. It was really fantastic.
Absolutely incredible.
That's next level player stuff.
Yes. The moments where there is another love interest introduced can be really fun, especially if that's an NPC that the players have already been interacting with.
Mm-hmm.
And who's to say that you have to wait for double sixes for that to happen, right? Like, as a director, you can always just kind of be like, oh, well, actually, you seem to be really hitting it off with this person, and you know what? They're fair game. Anyone can go after them. Yeah, we've had screaming alpacas that get a taste for human blood. Yeah, we've had a bulldozer. Yeah. So for the plot for that one was that the love interest moved from the big city to horse country, and one of the players, their small business was an alpaca farm.
Which far, okay. I can see it.
So far,
absolutely.
Classic Hallmark fare.
Someone rolled snake eyes, and we got the blizzard outside, and the alpacas got lost. And I don't remember how it got the taste for human flesh, but it was it's kind of like a last minute little thing.
Someone said it, and you were like, let's just roll with it. Okay.
I guess with it, I should go back to tone, where maybe don't take inspiration from that moment. I've had moments where it goes, as one player put, full on Phineas and Ferb, where it's just like almost too silly. So that's what I'm talking about, where it's like keep it in genre as much as you can, and I think that the last 5 minutes you can like really let loose. I think that's allowed, but if things build there, that's totally fine. But I refer to the tone as a winking magical realism.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels like Act 1 at the very least. It's like, let's keep to the agenda. Act 2,
100%.
we start to have a little bit of fun. It's like, and if Act 3, you want to throw in those bloodthirsty alpacas,
I think that's a great way to put it. That is a great way to put it. Yes, like I think one of my first playtest sessions, the plot was that they had to win the big Christmas tree eating contest. And that was like a little bit too much for being the main plot. But if it comes down to at the end, like this is how we're going to settle things, so be it. Like we've had people squaring off in bulldozers that were charged with the Christmas spirit. Then, if that's what's come down to, that's what it's come down to.
Absolutely, they were charged with the Christmas spirit. Abby, we got to have something charged by the Christmas spirit.
Don't you worry. The whole town is powered by Christmas spirit.
That's a great Hallmark movie.
Ooh, that's pretty good.
But
it's running low, and now
it's running low, and they can't figure out why. Because everyone's putting up decorations. They're in the holiday spirit, but it turns out that they're not actually in the holiday spirit. They're just going through the motions. They've lost the true holiday spirit.
Doesn't come from consumerism, Brian. It comes from the heart.
It comes from the heart, and they forgot. We should write this. That's
other movies have said it before, but why not say it again? That's the whole point of this.
Exactly.
And ours can have bloodthirsty alpacas.
Exactly. There you go.
They've got the Christmas spirit.
Yeah.
They've got something.
They got something.
It's not what you get, it's what you give.
Oh, there we go.
Well, one of the last questions I had for you, Nick, is I always like to ask if especially when someone's played a game so many times, have you found any like common pitfalls, like traps that you fell into once you're like, make a note never to do that thing again? Because those are often like the bits of wisdom that first-time GMs can really benefit from.
Totally. I would say the tone thing is probably the biggest one, is like deciding to go full silly out the gate or full irony out the gate. I would say actually just stay away from like too much irony altogether. It's cool if you go there, but catch yourself going there, because the game is a parody, but it's also like a love letter, right? Mm-hmm. The movies are fun because they're so genuine, and that's what makes them so silly and so fun to laugh at. And really like laugh along with, right? Like no one's actually making these Hallmark movies thinking they're making high cinema, right? Like they know they're being campy, they know it's silly, and so you want to keep the genuineness in there and not let it get too poisoned with irony.
Yeah,
I feel like that's always something that I think you said it perfectly. That's the thing you want to get to. It's not a thing you want to start with.
100%.
Like if you get to irony, that's fine. But
because as you said, it's the kind of thing of like, the reason that you want to play this and do these is because we love those movies. Like, yes, they're cheesy and campy, but like they genuinely bring you joy watching them.
Yes, exactly.
And so,
right.
As you said, there's a sincerity to them, and I think that's what makes them so much fun.
My comparison is like a really fun. I just love like a bad movies as a genre, right? But there's a difference between like The Room and Sharknado, where The Room is like part of the fun is that it's really genuine. Yeah. Whereas like you watch like the third Sharknado sequel and you're like, they're really like leaning into it and winking at the camera a lot, and it's like then you lose something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also you want to have genuine fun with your friends. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're kind of winding down here. Before we get out of here, Abby, is there anything that you're still worried about, or any last minute questions you have before we start to play our own game of Hometown Holiday?
I'm honestly just like, I'm so pumped and so excited to do it. It's funny because as we mentioned, I think my usual or like my gut is wanting to prep or write or like have fun with like really setting things up. But it's a game where I might think about like plot or, as you said, set up a couple of meet cutes. But because it's a game that's built for you to pick up and play without having necessarily done anything in advance, that's what I'm going to do. which I'm a little nervous, but because as I said, it's not my MO. But since that's the game, and I want to see kind of where it goes, and I'm just like pumped, very excited. It's really getting me in the holiday spirit.
That's so exciting. I am so excited to hear it. It's been like listening to you guys' Orbital Blues episodes and hearing the care that you put into the sound and the music and everything. And I'm like, it's such an honor to know that you guys have chosen something I worked on. It's really cool.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. We've been like,
I was going
to say this has been a plan since at least the summer, like June or something, where we were talking about this and we were like, well, yeah, so that's definitely what we're going to do end of the year. Also, Brian, you're going to have to look up so many like sleigh bells sound effects, and I'm excited for that sound design.
Sound design is going to be very fun. I might cut what I'm about to say next out because there's an off chance that his schedule gets too weird, but hopefully our resident musician, Behold, Colin McClutchy, is going to do an original Christmas song as the theme song.
That would be amazing. Can I make a request to Colin? And like, if this is too much, if there's already a plan, no, but something that we found coming up, one of my favorite, I guess you call it a trope. It's a weird occurrence in these movies, is a song that is clearly the instrumentation for a known Christmas song, like Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, something like that. And then the lyrics come on and it's not that song. Right?
Like how they get around the legal rights of buying that song or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. It's I saw a YouTube video that recently that mentioned this, and then later that week I saw a different example of it on TV in like one of the movies. I was like, how are they doing this?
Like, what a bizarrely specific, as you said, trope, I guess.
Yeah. And it's like they're iconic openings, right? Like the like that guitar riff at the beginning of Rocking Around the Christmas Tree. Like you're like, oh, yep, I know. And then the words come on, completely different tune. You're like,
You're like, oh, never mind, I can't sing along. Okay.
They're just trying to hide behind parody law. They're like, all right, it's an homage. It's not a cover. Yeah. It's an homage.
Oh, there was one. I don't know if it's the end of that same movie, but then they all the characters were singing Old Lang Syne, and they changed half of the words, but not all of them. But also, that's in the public domain.
I was about to say that's what you don't have to change. That's someone didn't do their research. They're like, you know what? Just throw it in the pile.
Right.
Or just someone was like feeling creative with lyrics that day and was like, why don't we just switch it up? That's incredibly funny. That's a great request.
I'll pass it along. I am going to put you on the spot one more time, Nick, before we get out of here, because this is a homage and a love letter to Hallmark movies and Christmas movies and rom-coms. Before we go, can you give us a rom-com and or Hallmark movie recommendation for the viewers?
Ooh, boy. When my wife and I watch like Hallmark movies and things, or knockoff Hallmark movies or whatever, we typically just like turn on like Tubi or Pluto or like one of the free streaming services, and we just start wherever the movie is and just hit go. So unfortunately, I do not have like a really good single name recommendation. There is one called Hometown Holiday, which I found out.
Oh my God!
After I kickstarted my game. That one I can say quintessential. That one will do it. I'm gonna say anything with they have amnesia is usually a recipe for success.
It's just a great plot twist. It's so convenient for them to just forget all the things. Yeah.
I also really like the recommendation of just pick a movie and start in the middle.
No, I mean, honestly, the kind of like we were talking about, right? The whole point is it's all the tropes together. So I don't really want to point you to a specific one so much as I want to point you to like, just get in the spirit, get the vibes, and just like, even if you just watch the length of one, but it's over the course of two, you're going to pick up on all the tropes. They're going to reinforce each other. So yeah.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, it's all the same actors in the same town and the same. So it kind of just, it works out even in the wash.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nick, thank you so much for joining us. Abby, I hope you're excited to play, as am I.
I'm so excited to play. This is going to be phenomenal.
And that is all for this episode of My First Dungeon. Join us next week as we put up the tree and pour some cocoa in our fuzzy warm sweaters in our game of Hometown Holiday. If you want even more My First Dungeon, head on over to patreon.com/myfirstdungeonpod to get bonus actual plays, cast talkbacks, and a whole lot more. But for now, as always, remember, if you're having fun, you're already doing it right. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
If you're hearing this, that means you listened to every last second of this episode. And if you simply cannot wait until the next episode drops, you should head over to patreon.com/myfirstdungeonpod and become a member of the Dice Pool. Splash! For just a few bucks a month, you'll get cast talkbacks, original games, and a full-length bonus actual play each and every month. As of the end of 2023, there's already over 20 hours of bonus audio, plus a whole bunch of other goodies to enjoy. So head on over to patreon.com/myfirstdungeonpod and jump on into the Dice Pool. We'll see you there. Splash!